Okay, this is factoring polynomial review for number 3 through 8. All right, let's take a look. There are many different steps to factoring, many different ways depending on what is presented to you. So if you look at number 3, notice count your terms. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you have 4 terms, the easiest thing to do is to try to group them together and see if you get something the same and put it together and then solve. Don't forget, you are solving, okay? I'm going to group the first 2 together, and I'm going to group the last 2 together. That is called grouping. Now, when you have 2 terms like that, you want to find your greatest common factor. And if you don't know your greatest common factor very well, you can use this calculator to help you, okay? So, if you would, go to Math, right-click to Number, scroll down to 9. You see GCD? This only works for 2 terms. Hit Enter. Doesn't matter if it's positive or negative. Just make it positive when you type this in, okay? What is the greatest common factor for 35 and 56? 35, comma, if you look, your comma is right above your 7, right here. There's your 7, there's your comma, okay? 56, enter. So what is the greatest number that goes into both of those? And that is 7. So, you're going to factor out 7. When you factor out 7, you also have a squared. So we're going to factor out a squared as well. 7a squared. That means I'm dividing each of those terms by 7a squared. So 35 divided by 7 leaves you 5a. Keep your sign. Positive 56 divided by 7 gives you a positive 8. Next group, keep your sign. Negative. What do those 2 have in common? Just a 1. So you basically are dividing each of these terms by negative 1. What do you have left when you take out negative 1 away from each one? 5a plus 8. Okay? Notice you have these 2 that are exactly alike. And since they are alike, you can group them together. So you have 5a plus 8, and then you have your leftovers together. See how you're grouping them? 7a squared minus 1, set that equal to 0. Okay? Take this one and divide. I'm so sorry. Set it equal to 0 and then solve. Minus 8. What you do to one side, you do to the other. Divide by 5, and you have negative 8 over 5. Okay? Do that one also. Set that equal to 0. 7a squared, add 1 to both sides. Divide by 7, so you got 1 over 7. Take a square root. Whenever you take a square root, you're going to have 2 answers. A is equal to plus or minus square root of 1 over 7. Okay. You can't have a radical in your denominator, so you have to rationalize it. So what you want to do is you want to multiply the top by 7 and the bottom one by 7. Okay? So multiply across. So A is equal to plus or minus square root of 7 over 7. Now, if you guys leave it like that for Miss Blinko, I am okay, but this is actually the correct answer for simplifying. Okay? And that's grouping. Let's look at number 4. Okay. Count your terms. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to try grouping. And we'll see if that works, okay? Same thing. What is the greatest common factor that goes into both of those? 5p squared. So you're going to factor out 5p squared from each one. And when you do, you have 4p minus 1. Keep your sign. Bring that over. What do those 2 guys have in common? A 2. Factor out negative 2. When you do that, you have 4p minus 1. See how these 2 are alike? Group them together. See how those 2 are the leftovers? Put them together. Okay? And then you can solve for each one of them. Take this one. Set it equal to 0. and you will see p is equal to 1/4. Add 1 to both sides, divide by 4, okay? This one, 5p squared minus 2, set that equal to 0. Add 2, divide by 5, take a square root. So p is equal to plus or minus square root of 2 over square root of 5. You can even write it like that. Need to rationalize that, so multiply the top and the bottom by the denominator. So p is equal to plus or minus square root of 10 over 5. Okay, so there's an answer, and here's another answer. Number 5. Take a look at how many terms you have. On number 5, you have 2 terms. 1, 2. Perfect cube, perfect cube. So we're going to do sums of. Why is it sum? Because there's a plus. Okay? Draw 2 sets of parentheses. The second one bigger than the first. Take a cube root of x to the third, which is x. Keep your sign. Cube root of 1 is 1. You have your primary. Now, take this, and we're going to fill it in this part. Square your first term, x squared. Change your sign. Multiply 1 times x. 1 times x gives you x. Plus, this will always be a plus. Square your last term, it's a 1, okay? Solve. X plus 1 equals 0. X is equal to negative 1. You're solving. Now, take a look. 1, 2, 3. It's a quadratic. You can either factor or you can use the quadratic formula. I'm going to use the quadratic formula because you guys are more familiar with that in my class. X is equal to, here's your A, here's your B, here's your C. Negative B plus or minus square root, negative 1 squared minus 4 times your A times your C, all over 2A. Okay, plug it in. Always do this part first on your calculator, okay, without the square root. So, go to my handy dandy calculator and I'm going to type that in, okay? So I have negative 1 square, oops, pardon me, okay, square, right click, let's start all over. Parentheses, negative 1 square, right click, minus 4 times 1 times 1. That gives you negative 3, okay? Square root of negative 3. Now, I'm going to rewrite this. X equal, negative times a negative is positive, plus or minus square root of negative 3 over 2. Do you see how you have a negative right there? You cannot have a negative underneath the radical. Notice this is a square root. Since it's a square root, a negative under the radical will come out as an I. So x is equal to 1 plus or minus I square root of 3, and that's how you get rid of the negative. All of that divided by 2. You can write with the I right here, or you can write 1 plus or minus square root of 3I. You can write it after, over 2. Both of these are correct, okay? These two are the same, and it doesn't matter which answer you give me, where you put your I. Number 6, okay. Perfect cube, minus. So this is differences of perfect cube, just like the one before. Draw 2 sets of parentheses. Cube root of x to the third is x. Keep your sign. Cube root of 125 is 5. Okay? Use this information to fill out the second part. Square your first term. Change your sign. Multiply these two together. 5 times x is 5x. Plus, square your second, which is 25. Solve for each one. X is equal to 5. Set it equal to 0. You solve, you're going to get that. Okay? Take this one. I'm going to use the quadratic again. So here we go. X equal negative b, which is 5, plus or minus square root 5 squared minus 4 times 1 times 25. All of that divided by 2 times a, which is 1. All right. Do this part in your calculator first. Here we go. Okay? So you have 5 squared minus 4 times 1 times 25. And you get negative 75. I'm running out of room, so I'm going to scoot over a little bit. X equals negative 5 plus or minus square root of negative 75 over 2. Now, come over here real quick. You know you're going to get rid of that negative. Okay? 75 is not a perfect square, so you have to factor things out. Use your tree. Factors of 75, 25 and 3. Think of quarters, okay? 25, 50, 75. Factors of 25 is 5 and 5. Now take a look. See this negative? I'm going to bring it out as an I. Pairs of 5, left over a 3. So I'm going to rewrite this problem right here. So now you have x equal negative 5 plus or minus, write with your numbers first please, 5i square roots of 3 over 2. Okay? Take a look at your number that you haven't dealt with. You've already dealt with the square root of 3, ignore it. But look at these guys. Can you simplify that anymore? Is there a greatest common factor that goes into 5, 5, and 2? Well, the only answer is 1. So you stop right there, and there's 2 of your solutions. There's 2, plus that one makes it 3. And there's your number 6. Number 7. Okay, bear with me, we're almost done. 3 terms, count your terms. 1, 2, 3. Now, do you see how your second term is half of the first? Then just factor like you normally would, and that's a is a 1, okay? Draw 2 sets of parentheses. Set that equal to 0. Square this one. Take a square root of this one. What's the square root of x to the 4th? Or think of it as halving the 4th. So you got x squared, okay? Like you've done before, where you had x squared and an x. Well, 2 numbers multiplied to give you 18, and it's going to add, because that's a plus, to give you 11x squared. Well, that would be 3 and 8. So plus 3 plus 8, okay? Set this one equal to 0 and solve. X squared equals negative 3. Take a square root. X is equal to plus or minus square root of negative 3. Can't have a negative. It's a square root. It's an even root. So that comes out as plus or minus square root of 3i. Okay? Same for this one. X squared plus 8. Set that equal to 0. Subtract 8 from both sides. Take a square root. X is equal to plus or minus square root of negative 8. That's going to become an I, and I'll deal with that in a little bit. Factor this down. 4 and 2, 2 and 2. You got a pair and a loner, okay? So your final answer is plus or minus. Go ahead and take care of your I. See how you have a pair? Pair 2 comes out I. Pair 2 comes out as a 2. Negative becomes an I, and you have left a 2. That one doesn't have a pair, so it has to stay home, okay? Number 8. Count your terms. 1, 2, 3. Your second is half of the first, your exponent. Draw 2 sets of parentheses. Factors of x squared, x to the 4th is x squared and x squared. 2 numbers that multiply to give you negative 35, and it's going to subtract to give you negative 2. 7 and 5. Okay? So this will be negative 7 plus 5. Set each one equal to 0. X squared is equal to 7. Square root. X is equal to plus or minus square root of 7. Same thing. Set this one equal to 0. Subtract 5. Take a square root. x is equal to plus or minus square root of -5. Can't have a negative. Only factor that goes into 5 is 5 and 1. So x is equal to plus or minus I square root of 5. By the way, you can still write it like this. Plus or minus square root of 5i. Means the same answer. Okay? And there you have your solution. Next part will be in the next video. Thank you.